us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Victor Perez?
Here.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent. Mayor, we have a quorum?
Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do. Miriam Cruz. Ms. Cruz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I wanted to say thank you for the city council member service. I don't think you guys hear enough thank yous from your constituents. So I just wanted to say thank you for, running for office and taking your time to always be here, and always listening and being attentive to your constituents' needs. I also wanted to go ahead, take this time to thank your staff for and the police. Some of the concerns that I have brought up in the past have been addressed or are being addressed, and I'm very thankful for that. Some of the suggestions that I've made for the website have also been implemented or at least taken into consideration, so I wanted to say thank you for all of that. So thank you. The second thing I wanted to mention was I believe to continue the efforts of ex-Mayor Ruiz, that he was really trying to bring into Socorro transparency for the city. I think that's important. I think it's an important endeavor to continue. I thought it would be a good idea to always attach, whenever a commissioner is being appointed, attach either their application or the reasons why they decided to run into the agenda. I know that information I could get as public information. I could make an open records request. But the point is that I know that some of you that are sitting here today and a lot of people in the past have provided that information in the agenda. And it seems to me that it's only fair if these people are going to be appointed to the commission, that information be included. Another thing that struck me, and this is just of observation, I just want to point out that I think diversity in the commissions are important, and it can be always helpful. And today, as of today, what I saw, the majority of the commissioners are all men, which I have nothing against men. I like a lot of you that are here. But I think diversity is an important thing to have in the city. And all the commissioners that are being appointed today are men as well. And so I just like to point that out so that it's something that we consider moving forward. Let's bring diversity into Socorro and into what voices we're listening to. Thank you.
Mayor, and those are all our speakers.
No. You had to sign up. Sorry.
Mayor, and for the record, Ms. Ivan Colom Villalobos walked into the meeting at 6:04.
Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Mr. Duran?
At this time, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move up items 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29.
So basically 24 through 29?
24 through 29, yes, ma'am.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 24, discussion and action on the appointment of Marty Loya to the Historical Landmark Commission, Place 5.
Make a motion to approve. Second that.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 25, discussion and action on the appointment of Rita Cruz to the Board of Adjustments for Place 1.
Make a motion to approve?
Second motion.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 26, discussion and action on the appointment of Alfredo Gonzalez to the Historical Landmark Commission, Place 1.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 27, discussion and action on the appointment of Juan Lopez to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Place 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 28, discussion and action on the appointment of Jose Landeros to the Civil Service Commission, Place 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 29, swearing in of newly elected commissioners.
Yes, except for Landeros, he already did all his paperwork, okay? No, it's a generic. You're absent. How are you, Mr. Landeros? How are you, Mr. Cruz? Muy bien, gracias. Mr. Cruz?
Item number 9, public hearing of an ordinance amending section 42-39 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to prohibit U-turns over, upon, or across certain medians, except at intersections where the approaching vehicle is controlled by an official traffic control device, and authorizing the installation of no U-turn signs in the designated school drop-off zones. It's a public hearing. 6:12, public hearing is now open.
Good evening, again. The only thing I wanted to mention, I had mentioned it to Renee last time when the ordinance was read, was that these signs are going to be posted at all times, meaning that when the school is not in session, so weekends, during the day, that these signs really shouldn't go into effect, because if I'm driving down Rio Vista, I'm going to see at least 4 of them, or at least 2 of them. I'm going to hit, what's this, Hilly, Sanchez, and if I go on to Alameda, I'm going to get Socorro too. And so I forget something at home, I need to turn around. I'm not really sure where I would turn, I guess into a side street. So anyway, my concern was, when is there going to be a timeline like there are like the speed limit signs, 30 miles an hour, and then the flashlights, or 15 miles an hour, and then the flashing signs, whenever flashing signs are, and the ones that don't have flashing signs say from 7 to 9, and from 3 to 5 p.m. That's one concern I have, because PD, at any time when school isn't in session, would need to enforce that no U-turn. And if we don't limit it as much as we can to just when school is in session, I think it would just cause a lot more traffic, or just a headache for some people that it doesn't need to, if we can limit it. The second thing I wanted to say, if these signs do go up, I know that SISG asked for them, and I think it's important, obviously, to take care of children, especially in drop-off and drop-on times. But if they're not going to be enforced, or if there's not going to be a secondary way to make sure that traffic is flowing via probably cones, which I think cones are very effective in school zones. I think they guide people where they can be and where they can't be. And so, if the sign's not going to do anything, then to me it seems like a waste of money, of the city's money, of our money, tax money. And so I think there really needs to be a good coordination with the district to make sure that they're using all they have available, cross guards, cones, and whatever other methods they have, sending out letters to parents, making sure that they're going to be aware that there's going to be no U-turn signs, and what the drop-off and drop-on method is going to be, all that coordination, so that these signs don't end up just being a waste of money. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
(6:15), public hearing is now closed. Item number 10, second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending section 42-39 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to prohibit U-turns over, upon, or across certain medians, except at intersections where the approaching vehicle is controlled by an official traffic control device, and authorizing the installation of no U-turn signs in the designated school drop-off zones.
Motion to approve amendment to the ordinance, section 42-39.
Good evening, council. So as stated, as the summary states, essentially this is just putting up no U-turn signs and just the designated drop-off zones in front of these schools. We amended the existing code. Not only the previous code only had a couple of schools on there, we added the rest of the schools that are in Socorro, just for they could all be, I guess, enforced as well, if you will. But again, it's only in front of what is considered the designated drop-off zones. It's not the entire street, so it'd just be that one area that we'd be placing these signs at.
Mr.
Also,
Perez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that there was a concern about the time or whether they can be enforced certain times of the day. And from what I've seen, I'm not so sure that can be done. If, the only example I can think of is, for example, in front of Hanks High School on Lake Trevino, there is a no U-turn sign there, and it's there all the time. And so I think that it's one of those things where you need, either you have it all the time or you don't, because then people will forget if it's not there all the time. So that's my only thing that I would suspect, that's the reason why you would need to have it there all the time, correct?
Yes, sir. And then just to add to that, again, it's just in that one designated zone. It won't be along the entire frontage of the school. It'll just be in the actual drop-off zone, sir.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No, I was gonna ask the same thing that Mr. Pettis did, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Villalobos?
So if we approve, then the city of Socorro pays for the signs? Or is it a collaborative, between the school district and the city?
To answer that question, that'd be, well, the cost would be the city's, because it is our right-of-way, it is our street that we'd be placing them on. So the labor, the signs themselves, and the placement, and the maintenance of them would be up to us, essentially, ma'am.
Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 11, discussion and action on approving the unaudited financial report for October 2017.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
No.
Item number 12, discussion and action to authorize the mayor, city attorney, and chief of police to sign the interlocal agreement for Operation Stone Garden fiscal year 2017.
Motion to move to go into the interlocal agreement for Stone Garden 2017 fiscal year.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 13, discussion and action on final plat approval extension for Jardín de Flores subdivision, Unit 2, being a portion of tracks 9, 9A, and 16C, Block 12, Socorro Grant.
Make a motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Oh, what?
Good evening again. This is essentially just a request for extension of approval of a already previously approved final plat. The applicant or the developer, unfortunately, was mistakenly interpreted our code, if you will. They believed that they had to put in all the improvements first into the subdivision and then file the plat, unaware that there was an actual time limit for the plat to be filed. So they are essentially now, they're still working on it. Currently, there's some grading done on there, there's some curb and gutter already placed out there as well. So some work has already been done on the actual subdivision land. Now they're just requesting an extension where they could actually now follow our current subdivision code requirements and file the plat, essentially.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Mr. Duran? I'm sorry.
I did have a question. I'm looking at the plat. Does it conform with our Parks Master Plan for the amount of, is there any parks designated in this?
To answer that question, sir, this is actually,
started so he can't answer that question, right? Or can we just?
I mean, if no one called to the vote, mayor or the
Well,
city.
we already did.
Yeah, I know you, no, I take it back, you're right, the city clerk called the vote because she addressed you. Yeah, probably not,
Okay.
although people do it all the time.
Yeah.
Do we continue the vote, or it's up to me?
If you want to strictly comply with the rules, yeah, you have to continue the vote. Questions like that arise during the vote, or it's done, however they have, put it back and forth during the vote, that's where we have the parliamentary, the presiding officer. Okay.
Can you go ahead and answer the question?
Sure thing. This is actually the second phase, Unit 2 of what is the entire Jardín de Flores subdivision. And in Unit 1, there is a rather large park actually to the north of there. So it does follow the requirements for parks with that whole subdivision, and we take the whole subdivision into play, sir.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Your vote?
Yes.
Victor Pérez
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 14, discussion and action on approving engaging with Chris Carr, Briggs and Ingram, LLC, CPAs and advisors, professional services for auditing fiscal year 2017.
Motion to approve engaging with the aforementioned firm for discussion purposes.
Second.
And this is just to hire our financial audit. We need to comply with the charter, which we need a financial audit every year. So we're just engaging with the companies so they can come and make sure that they audit us and we're doing everything properly, or if they have any comments of things that we can improve, they can.
Thank you.
In other words, it's just to make sure that we're following the rules and the law with all our expenditures. Plain and simple.
Ms. Villalobos?
I have a question. Did we go out for bid, or is this the same company we use every year, or we've used them in the past?
The name has changed, and we're not required to go out for a procurement process. We're following the procurement process for these services.
Rene Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 15, discussion and action to approve newly elected officials to attend the newly elected official workshop in San Antonio on January 19, 2018.
Make a motion to approve any member of council that wishes to go. The reason why is because there's an ethics commission there, class. There is, I forgot what my, there's an ethics and parliamentary procedures, and there's another one, and I think some of us need a refresher. And I think that, we all should take the ethics class as well. So whoever wants to go, I think it's best all of us go.
Second.
So who would be going? As part of the motion, because we do have to do arrangements.
Well, I said all of them, all of us. So we're not gonna make it tomorrow, but when we do, you can call every single member and say, are you gonna be available for those dates? And then they can pick and choose if they're gonna go or not. Or do we have to say,
Yeah, I think it's the latter, because the travel has to be approved by the council.
right,
I think you have to, in order to approve it, the travel, you have to identify who's traveling.
okay.
Don't we have one more meeting that we
No.
can? Today's the
Oh,
7th.
yes, we do.
We have one more meeting, which would be the 21st.
But then we'll have to pay the late registration fee, correct?
Yes,
Is there late registration?
yes, there is. Jim, couldn't we just say all of us are going and then, and
You could.
and
yeah,
then just say that, in here in 2 weeks, you'll probably know more or less how your schedule's gonna be next month. And then,
Yeah, you can certainly say the motion is to approve all 6 members. The two problems with that, it's gonna, obviously, at some point, someone's gonna drop out. They don't have it, just because it's authorized doesn't mean they have to go. But actually, I don't recommend that all 6 members actually travel, because it creates a quorum problem, because in theory, you can do do it if it's strictly social or you don't talk city business. Well, the chances of 6 of you being in the same room and not talking city business at a municipal law seminar seems pretty slim. So I think it's safer just to make sure you don't have a quorum because
All right. I'll go at a later date. But even though I've been told by TML that, yes, we can go, as long as we don't talk about city business. We could talk about the classes though, but not about the city business itself.
oh no, I think I said that. You can go, all 6 can go. But it creates a quorum problem. If you're in the same room, you cannot discuss city business. My only point is, I think that's requiring monumental, self-control not to discuss city business when you're all in the room.
I think we're adults here and we all have self-control, so.
Mr. Perez?
Well, I think what Jim is alluding to is the perception of things. And perception is very important these days for some reason. But I think that if we were to go, then we would stagger the attendance for sessions. For example, you'd go to one, Mr. Navarro would go to another one, or 2 go to the session. That way there is no risk of having a walking quorum in a particular session.
And just to
And
add
we would
that-
plan out the day for that.
And just to add to Mr. Perez's point, when I remember when we got here, it was Mayor Reese at the time, myself, I think it was District 1 and District 2, and then 4 at the time. And we didn't go to all of them because it was like we separated each other from those classes because all of us wanted a different thing. But I mean, it's really up to you guys. I mean, I think that these classes are good because some of us can take a refresh. I believe, I certainly do. But like I said, if it's gonna create an issue, I think that I could just go later on because I do go to the TML. But it's up to you guys. And it's one of those things that you guys do need. I really do recommend it.
Ms. Villalobos?
The prices that we see here, like on Southwest, is today's prices.
Correct.
They continue to increase daily, a few dollars, you know.
Yes,
So it's if we're gonna save money, we need to kind of vote on it today and stick to a schedule tomorrow, per se.
I think that we should just vote on it as all 6. And then look at our schedules in the very next 2 days or so. And then inform staff if we can make it.
And by Monday, I'll have Norma just confirm and call you all and make sure before she books.
Mr. Duran?
I'm looking at the agenda, and I don't see where there's any classes that are staggered. I think that parliamentary procedure, being aware of the key, I think we should all go to that. And all of the class, it isn't like one seminar that I went to where they were split up. You could pick and choose which classes you wanted to go to. These, it just seems like they're very specific. And if we're gonna go, and then 2 members only go to one class and the other 2 don't do anything, I think that kind of defeats the purpose. If it was like the other one where there were several different modules that you could attend, I think then it would be worthwhile for all of us to go. But looking at the agenda that they have, it seems like it is very targeted toward newly elected because of the fundamentals of city regulation. And then, I'm just looking at the curriculum they're going to have, and I don't see where there are separate modules. So if we all go, then according, like the attorney said, there is a perception of a quorum.
Just sit separately throughout the room?
The idea is also for networking that, if I have a question, I'm not going to run across the room to go ask Mr. Pettis if what he got out of it is the same. We need to sit as a group, which we've always done at any conventions or anything that we've been on as far as civil service, because we do quiz each other, talk to each other about what is being said and how it relates to our city. If we all sit apart, that kind of defeats that purpose of networking within the city.
Is there another date for the same seminar?
I'm checking. They have another one on March the 8th and 10th for TIMA Public Funds Investment Act training. I'm sorry, March 8th, the Elected Officials Conference. March the 8th through the 10th. That's a more extensive training. This one is just a one day, so you would be leaving Thursday and coming back Friday. Yes.
Mr. Duran?
So this training is specifically geared toward the newly elected, correct?
Correct.
And then the other one will have more information toward all of council as a whole.
Correct, that's
And then-
just for elected officials.
Yeah, and then that one does have different modules that everybody could take.
I'm unable to see the agenda at this time, but normally that's how they
Yeah.
do the trainings.
So
They'll
it'd be
do the
more,
stagger.
it would be more logical for the newly elected to go on this one, and then all of us to go on that next one, where we could spread out and take advantage of all the modules that they're offering.
This one we have 4 elected officials that would be going, so that constitutes a quorum. So you would have the same problem if all of you go or just 4 of you go.
Okay.
Mr. Perez?
I'm an old, new elected official.
Well, you're fairly new for this term.
Let's call for the question.
You have the motion? Yes. Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Call the question.
Does the March one, is it the same, is it gonna be the same? It's just gonna be something else different?
It's gotta be something else.
It's like their annual conference for elected officials in March. Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
And, Mayor, so we'll let you know by when?
If you can, by tomorrow, but if not, Norma will call on Monday and we'll send out emails.
Thank you.
Also, well, I'm sorry. Also,
Ms. Villalobos?
it's hard with the hotels. I know that we had that problem last time.
That's why we
That
need to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we almost did not get rooms.
Yes. Mr. Nevares?
Count on me for that day.
So for sure.
Yes.
Item number 16, discussion and action to consider adoption of a written charge stating the basis for removal of Board of Adjustment Commissioner Christian Guzman and direct city attorney to prepare the written charge. Mr. Duran?
Motion to have council, or to have staff write up a written charge stating the basis for removal of Board of Adjustments Commissioner Christian Guzman and direct city attorney to prepare the written charge.
All second for discussion. Can we discuss, or is this an executive?
Yes?
Is it, no, but I mean, is this this is not an executive session?
Yeah,
item?
but this is
No.
not an employee.
We have, the Board of Adjustments needs 7 members in order to do a vote. Mr. Christian Guzman had a item that needed to go through the BOA. He attended that meeting and has never showed up since then. So the ordinance reads that we have to actually do a hearing to provide them the opportunity of, letting us know why before we can remove them from the Board of Adjustments. And that's the only board that requires us to do that.
No, there are
And-
at least one other one, but I know we have a list.
Yeah.
That is the case for that board, that commission.
Mr. Rodriguez?
So let me get this straight. This person got on our board, got his agenda passed, and then vacated basically, never showed up again. Okay.
Mr. Perez?
Did he vote on his own item?
I would have to go back and,
Jim?
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr.
well,
Duran?
Mr. Duran would probably know.
I was there for the meeting, and he abstained on his item. But after that, he never showed up to one meeting. He never replied to any phone calls, because I would ask at the meeting. He was no show, no call, and didn't answer his phone. So I think that he does need to be removed.
And I'm sorry, you
Ms.
mentioned
Villalobos?
you mentioned he was, number 7? There's 7 BOA members? There's 7
Correct.
BOA members, okay.
In order for them to,
Have quorum.
I think they need 6 to have quorum,
Mhm.
but 7 have to vote in order for the item to
Right.
pass. And it has to be like a unanimous vote. So without that one member, it makes it very hard for us to have quorum.
And what position is he appointed by?
What,
So it's a mayor position, okay. All right.
and we can appoint 2 alternates, Mayor.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 17, discussion and action on renewal of Board of Community Development contract or direct staff to look at other options for grant writing and administrative services.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to look into renewal for Board of Community Development contract for discussion purposes.
Second.
Ms. Villalobos?
I'd like to point out that, I believe this was a 2016 January contract. But didn't he have one in December of 2016?
Yes.
So we can continue tonight and vote even though we have the wrong
With the,
backup?
correct, but it does, it expires every 2 years. So it's up for renewal in December 31st of this year. We just attached the prior contract.
But we're missing one, the one in the middle, right? The one he.
The very last one, you are missing. However, we attached the wrong contract.
That's why I'm saying, can we continue?
Yes,
we have-
because we're showing you the minutes of when it was approved in 2016.
Okay, that was my question.
Yes.
Mr. Duran?
I was looking on the accounts payable, and I see where the police department has 3 members already attending or being schooled by a grant writing company. Is that correct?
They attended a training this year, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I also noticed on his contract, it said contractor shall provide a grant writer who will devote his time and efforts on a full-time basis. I believe, and I'm not positive about it, but he also represents other cities. He represents just about everybody around here. So I don't know if we're getting, the full attention that we should be getting. And I think that we need to, just like the police department, explore our options of having an in-house grant writer working for the city of Socorro, only for the city of Socorro.
And that's the reason why we're giving you an option to direct staff to look at other options. I think it's time for us to kind of see what's out there.
Mr. Perez?
So I'll go ahead and rescind my motion at this time and make a new motion that staff investigate and research other grant writing firms.
Services.
Mr. Rodriguez?
It's always good to go, it's always good to go and search and see what's out there. I've always said that. One of the things is that, for Mr. Duran's, inquiry about, the police department, they're only doing the grant writing for just their department, not other city functions. As far as Mr. Aníbal, I know that he does have one more municipality. I don't know if he has any other more than just that one and us. So I don't know how much time does he devote to us. But I mean, I do want to test the waters. I believe that it's time and see what's out there. If we're actually getting, our bang for our buck.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just a couple of things. One, I believe there's 2 municipalities that he's doing, and he's also doing real estate. And I tell you because I see him out there all the time. So I don't think he's dedicating, he's thin on his time. The other thing is, Mr. Martinez, I'm still going back to my question. I'm just trying to make sure here. Because we don't have December 2016's contract, we can still vote on this item tonight.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, your motion, would you add, I know you said other companies?
Other firms.
Firms, can we also add, or in-house?
But
We tried looking at that several times.
that's fine, I mean, but if, I guess I can amend my motion to look at,
There are options, whether it would be
options
in-house
to include,
or other services.
grant writing, firms, or perhaps it would be more feasible to hire an in-house grant writer. That'll be my motion.
Mr. Duran?
And also in regards to what Mr. Rodriguez said, I think that if we have an in-house grant writer, they can coordinate with the police department as far as their efforts and combine the efforts. 2 minds are always greater than one, and we have, I believe, 3 officers that are training. 4 officers. And if we can get staff to appoint some people within admin to also join in that training, and I think that when you combine the 2, that I think we can have a very good in-house grant writing department, as it were, but maybe not a department, but a grant writing group within the city, and will save us a lot of money. This contract, as I see it, it is very lucrative. It's $3,461.54 every 2 weeks, and I think that we can put that money to better use in training our own people, who will give us 40 hours a week of looking into grants just for our city, not for the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Do we have a second for Mr. Perez's
Second.
motion? Mr. Rodriguez?
We always say, and you're one of the individuals that say we need more police department. But you see, you're wanting to take, and from what I'm taking is that you want to take our officers from their police work duties and then make them into grant writing. We need grant writers as is. I think the police department should stay in the police department. I think that we should go out and look to see if we're going to be able to get an in-house or look for some other representation. I think that we should just leave the department as is. That's a different function. I don't think that we're supposed to be pulling out our police officers, because as it is, we can't even fill our positions, so we don't have a lot of safety out there, because there's no police officers, because we're pulling them out and doing some other different duties. I think that we should just focus on what it is. We should consider somebody else, see if we're getting our money's worth, and consider even looking in-house once more. I think that's what we should just be focused on.
Mr. Perez?
And I think that we're overstating it a little bit. I think and I don't want to put words in Mr. Duran's mouth, but I'm hoping that the intent is because we can't deter them or detract them from what their primary responsibilities are. I think that in an effective grant writing department, what happens is that if the grant is specific to, for example, something having to do with the police department, the grant writer would go to the police department and research through them what it is that, if there is any language that needs to be added, any cost that needs to be added, whatever the case may be relative to the police department. So I think that if at all possible, I think that I actually agree with both of you, which is kind of hard, but it's the idea that we can't repurpose a police officer's time to spend grant writing, but I think that we can take input and feedback about if it's a grant relative to and specific to a department. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Duran?
Well, the officers are already in training. We're not going to take them out. And I think we could learn a little bit more from Lieutenant Smith if we would allow him to speak about exactly how, because you are in the grant writing, learning it too, correct? Okay. Would you like to come up and let us, just inform us that the police officers are not going to be taken off the street? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to allow Lieutenant Smith to address us.
Second.
I need to interrupt, Mr. Duran. What are you asking him to address?
About the grant writing within the police department's participation.
But we're not posted for that.
But it has to do with grant writing, right?
But we're not posted for that.
Well, let's let Jim decide.
Is it your understanding that there was grant writing activity occurring in the police department?
There is, according to
That's what
the,
you're asking him to address?
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there?
We write all of our grants.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Mayor and council, thank you very much for letting me speak. We do write our own grants. Honeyball does not write the grants for us. We have to do all the research, we write the grant, we hand it to him, and he submits it. Now, the only thing is the last 3 years, he has not written or submitted Stone Garden or Border Star, because I write those grants. I have the contacts with the governor's office for Texas. I have the contacts for the DPS, and I have the contacts with the Border Patrol. So I go to all those meetings, and we have grant writing discussions, and I submit those grants, and he doesn't do them. I put him into e-grants. He's a grant writer, but he doesn't write the grants, not for us. Now, I think he does a fairly good job with housing and the things like that for the city, but for the police department, he doesn't write our grants. We write our own. And I think Victor could even attest, he writes his own grants. It's the same thing. He gives us a form that we have to write it out. We have to research it ourselves. We have to find the grant, and then we just hand it to him and he turns it in. So Mr. Rodriguez, we write our own grants. And we've been doing that ever since I've been here for 4.5 years. So I wrote grants when I was in El Paso. I was sent to a 2-week grant writing school. The people that were just recently sent, I think it was a 2 or 3 day course. I went through a 2-week course that TxDOT paid for. So I went to an extensive grant writing training. So, and it's, and he could write us grants, but we have to find everything for him. So, and by the time we find it, write it, and hand it to him, we may as well just submit it, because that's the only thing that he's doing for us.
Ms. Villalobos?
No, I can distinctively remember bringing this up months ago, which is, I'm so glad that we're at this point where we understand that we need to change the system. It's not working for us, it wasn't working for us back then, to its full extent. And so I thank you for the information you brought tonight.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I was here 4 years ago, so you weren't here before me, right?
I came in August of 2013.
Okay, so you came after me. One of the things is that when we lost Stone Garden, we made sure that we, and myself and the mayor, Reese at the time, go get Stone Garden because they had dropped us from it.
Yes.
We made sure that Aníbal wrote those grants at that time when we went and talked to the chief.
The
of
grant was
sh-
already, the grant was already
Wait,
written, it
you-
was just to
wait.
get the money back that we had lost.
I have the floor.
Okay.
What I'm trying to tell you is that when we had those meetings, you weren't there, okay? We went out, we structured it so that we can get back the grants. We had already put everything in place so that Aníbal could take care of it. Now I'm listening that Aníbal never even touched that. And I'm very disappointed because when we had those meetings, it was said that he was gonna do it. If I would have known back then, what you're telling me now, something would have been done. Because I was in the understanding and the belief that when we got Stone Garden back, because we had to go and talk to him, we had to put our faces and said, I'm sorry. We're the ones that went through hell to get back that meeting and get back Stone Garden. We saved the city that year $90,000,
Yes.
okay? And now
He
I'm
wrote
very
one grant
disappointed,
he wrote one Stone Garden grant after
and which
that.
probably be the first one.
It was the 2011, and then from 2012 on, I've written all.
You
all
see,
of them.
that's news for me, you know, and it's one of those things that
And
it's
he,
heartening.
actually, back then, he used to manage the grants too. But he was, when I took over, I was kind of ordered to take over since I ran the grants in El Paso. He was at least 6 months behind in submitting for reimbursements. So, and now we're like, well, we usually submit every 2 months. So, and it's just because of that we can get a larger submission rather than every single month. But he only wrote the 2011 grant, and then after that, he hasn't written one for us.
Mr. Smith, thank you for keeping up with Stone Garden, because that's
And,
something
and
that
I
does.
appreciate what you guys, y'all fought for that grant, and because you fought for it, now we're in a much better position now with
No, and I
Border
want to say
Patrol
that, you
and
know
with
what?
the state.
Thank you. I did not know that he stepped aside and just gave it, you all to it. I mean, that's something that I did not know. We did not know. You know what?
That
This
was
is
an
some-
instruction of the prior chief, which was acting Chief Montoya. Because when LT came in, that department was a whole mess, and that's why you were losing all of that. His expertise were Stone Garden. I mean, there was a lot of work that had to go into hours and hours. And I think just now, he's barely, kind of catching up.
No,
But that was done, that was a decision that was made by the police department back then.
call for the question. Let's just get it over.
Mr. Duran?
I think that if I had not read our accounts payable, I would not have seen the money that was expended for grant writing. And we would not have had half of this discussion tonight. I think we need to be a little more diligent in how we're doing things. We're wasting a lot of money every 2 weeks, because I'm sure Lieutenant Smith does not make $3,416.54 every 2 weeks. And you've gotten us the grants that we've needed. And I'm sure Stone Garden is not the only grant that you've gone after. And I think that we really need to think about in-house. Reason being is we have a lot of experience right there that will help out. And I know it's not going to take that much time away from your duties within the police department.
What it is, I mean, He's here sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning.
Pardon me?
He's here till 2, 3 in the morning
Okay, well then,
at
you
night
know,
because he's doing
Yeah.
all of the paperwork that needs to get done, plus all of the other reports.
but still,
Bless you.
we need to keep looking in our paperwork that we're handed before every meeting. And had I not seen that, because I've had the discussion with you, Ms. Rodarte, about in-house, and about that company that comes up on my phone about in-house or grant writing. And I think we need to keep, all of us, a little more diligent in looking at things like this that are gonna save our city a lot of money and probably bring us more grants in the future.
Mr. Perez?
I think that in going back to what I said earlier, that a good grant writing department, whether it's contracted or in-house, it doesn't matter. The burden shouldn't have to be placed on the individual departments, whether it's the police department or any other department. They should only act as a resource to supplement the information in a grant, not to write the grant itself. And so, to me, I'm glad that LT spoke. I didn't know that he had to invest that many hours, or those many hours, in getting a grant done when we had someone that should have been, that was designated to do it. And so, again, in not trying to be contrary to Mr. Duran, but if he has to invest those many hours, while we have if we have either an internal or contracted outfit, then they wouldn't be doing their job either, because they should only be, the police department and LT's experience should only be tapped when they need to supplement the information, not write the entire grant.
Ms. Villalobos?
And this is a good lesson for all of us to learn. This situation has been brought forth to council, to the past council, many times by several constituents over and over and over, and we have never listened, or at least some of us have never listened. And I hope from this point forward, we start looking more at, how we can save the city money and earn more grants by listening to our constituents, because they're out there noticing these things.
Mr. Duran?
I just want to clarify, I did not mean for Lieutenant Smith to take over grant writing. What I meant was if they come up to a stone wall where he would be a good resource, that's
Right.
all. I mean, his department is his department, and this other would be for the rest of the city. And if they do need a little bit of help, I'm sure he would be more than happy to help out, but not to have him writing grants for the city. That was not my intention.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 18. Mr. Rodriguez?
Could we move item number 23 before my entire items, because this one sets the tone for the rest. Oh, I mean, yes.
23?
23, before we do 18, 19, so on.
Second.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 23, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare and bring to council for consideration changes to the improvement required, including outdoor lighting and a sign of the name of the park when the parkland is conveyed to the city, and the timing of the conveyance, including amendments to the city ordinance regarding the same.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. For discussion.
Number 19?
There's a video
Number 23.
23.
My name is Rene Rodriguez, Councilman at Large for the City of...
Yeah, the video.
No.
We don't have it here. Just saying.
have numbers right
My name is Rene Rodriguez, Councilman at Large for the City of Socorro. What I'm trying to show here is that this is a park out on the east side. As you can tell, it has a playground in the center. It's got sidewalks all around the park, trees, lighting, and of course they have posted signs of the name of the park as well. What I'm trying to show is that this is a nice park, a flat park, and not a park/ponding. As you can tell, it's flat, and that's something that we want. I want to show you that the ponding is not near here. It's across the street, across there. All the way on the other side is the ponding. Why can't we have nice things in the city of Socorro? I think it's a time for a change. I think that we need to take action and change these agendas and policies that we have and ordinances so that we can have a quality of life that our constituents deserve and need.
Now,
Mr. Rodriguez?
thank you. No. The thing is that I've been doing this, I've been saying that we need to change and amend our ordinances. I've been saying this, Mr. Perez has been here. Ms. Villalobos has been here for the last year or so. And, you've heard me say time and time again that we need to change because it's time. One of the things is that the city's growing because El Paso's growing. And what's gonna happen is that all these builders are coming into our city and building because there's nowhere to go except Socorro and the east side. Now, I always go to these subdivisions over there all the time, and I look at them and see how they're being built. And I see that they're having something that we don't. And the reason why is that I've been taking a look at certain ordinances like the park issue with what we have. And unfortunately, everybody else has all of these. They force the developers to say, hey, you need lighting, we need sidewalks, we need a walk trail, we need, X, Y, and Z. Why can't we do that? And by the time we wait for our staff, and that's one of the things that I will say, is that we did have certain, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but, we had a certain department heads that, didn't want to do any changes and stuff, We have a different department head now that really wants to revamp these. I think that there's so many things that we have to address. Why not address them now? Because as we can tell, we're being presented with plans and they're gonna be done. So what I'm trying to show is that why can't we just amend them and say, hey, we need lighting? Because they give us a park, and what's gonna happen is that it has no lighting. So what's gonna happen, they give us this park and then we're gonna spend money to start putting whatever else they did not do. Why don't we just ask for it, put it in writing, amend our ordinances, and they have to do it, and they have to follow it. Why? Because we put it there. That's why. If the city of Socorro follows what the city of El Paso, the city of Horizon, everybody else, we always say, oh, well, they pay this there, oh, they do that, they give this away. Well, you know what? They also ask for all these amenities. Why don't we just start asking for them as well? It's time that, we have to say, hey, it's time. We talk about quality of life. How many people don't we have here that, they have a big hole? There's pictures that I put on all my agenda items because I want you to understand that, you know what? It's not that we want to we don't want to impose our will. What we're imposing is we want a better quality of life for our constituency. And that's what they deserve. They're taxpayers, and I think that they deserve a better quality of life. How many children can't use a park because it's inundated with water because that's what we always get. We get a pack/ponding. And it's time for a change. I mean, yes, you go there to that park, and believe me, tomorrow the kids are going to be playing. Saturday they're going to be playing. But you go to one of our parks, they're going to have to wait 2-3 weeks when the sun, starts, or the water starts percolating before they can even go play soccer. That's the quality of life we're talking about. Our children's quality of life. What about our parents that want to walk with their kids? But they can't because it's all muddy. I'm just saying is that we need a change, we need to start now, and this is just a head start, so that we can revamp our ordinances.
Mr. Perez?
And I agree with that. I guess we need to get out of the mentality that it's gonna cost more. Well, the developer never loses. If they develop a park with lights and whatever, it's, that cost is passed on to the buyers. That or whoever is buying the properties, developing the individual lots. No one ever is ever gonna lose money, whoever develops a property like that. Secondly, I think that and I've said it before, we're going through growing pains. And if we don't start expecting more, then we're not gonna get it. As in anything, the developers will do the minimum they can to comply, and that's good enough for them. And we need to get out of that mentality that it's in the Lower Valley, it's okay, you know, they can get by with it, and that to me is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, exactly. And so I think that if we want to act like a big city, we need to start. If we want to be a big city, we need to start acting like a big city. So those are my 2 cents.
Mr. Duran?
I think also we have a parks master plan that should be coming out very soon, and I have the draft of it. I think we also need to make the developers build the parks that are required or asked for in this master plan. I think I read out how behind we are as far as park acreage, and I think that, and when I asked about that one, they said there's a big park, but we don't know exactly how big that park is and for how many people it serves, and does it comply with the parks master plan. If it doesn't, then that plat needs to be redone so that if there is parks that are missing, they need to be put in there. And I think that on this item here, the parks master plan needs to be included in it. That way, they know how big the park to make, they know how many lights to put around. I do agree with the lights. I put items on the agenda for lights but I think that we need to, for all our parks, all the future parks, they need to have all our future subdivisions, not take the money because the money will be squandered. We get a park, and the park's forever. And I know that it takes a little bit more manpower to take care of them but if they're given to us in good condition, not like a park that the builder just took off on, didn't put a single thing in there. If we get our parks, and like you say, have an ordinance, that way they know what's expected of them. You're going to put in a park that for 250, 350 houses, it should have this amount of park in it. And the master plan does call for that, and I think we need to add that into this. That way, not only lighting, but the amount of houses that this park is going to serve. And we need to look into that one subdivision, make sure that the park that they have is going to be big enough for the amount of houses that they're going to add to it.
Mayor,
Mr. Arthur?
you have to adopt the master plan before you can start
No, I understand.
or amend the ordinance. So any plats that have been submitted before the adoption and the ordinance, we can't impose that on them. It has to be, the ordinance has to be written that way before you can impose.
Mr. Duran?
So do you want to amend your motion until the master plan is?
No.
Okay, so in other words,
Mayor.
then excuse me, I still have
Yeah,
the floor.
but she called her, and I had my hand raised.
That was
before Mr.
recognized.
Duran.
I was recognized, though. Anyway, let me just finish, and then you can have the floor. Then this is going to be, are we going to have to redo the ordinance again when the master plan is approved?
I think what we can do is start amending the ordinance now. Try to get that, and then you can just add the amendment to see Exhibit A and add the master plan to it.
Thank you.
Like an Exhibit A, like the fee schedule that you add in the ordinance to look at the master plan when it talks about parks.
in the ordinance.
Mr. Rodriguez?
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. We're gonna wait until they present us that, and then we approve it, and then, so what? In the time that it takes for us to approve the master plan, they present to us, how many more subdivisions are gonna be presented? What Mr. Duran is saying is that we wanna infringe and impose our will on developers when they already, the law already protects them. You wanna undo the right because you wanna impose that and undo their pledge. That's what you just finished saying. All I'm saying is that I don't wanna do that. What I wanna do is that I wanna already start doing this. By the time anybody else comes in, they already know that they need to do this. This is the right step. We can't wait for the master plan. Because in 30 days, how many plats could be brought to the city? Okay? So once everything, when a developer comes into the city, and that's what people need to understand. When the developer comes to the city and furnishes the plat, and they have already met all our requirements, we can't impose our will and say, you gotta change this, and you gotta change that because I want to say something. No. And that's what we don't wanna do. What we wanna do is say, hey, look, right now, this is what we need right now, so that we can already start amending it, so that when anybody brings us these plats, they already know that they need to do it. Then when the master plan is presented to us and we pass it, then we can just put it in there and say, hey, this is what we're gonna add as well. That's basically what we're doing, is that we're trying to get, we're trying to already beat the developers. That's what we're trying to do. That's my whole purpose right now.
Ms.
So-
Villalobos?
So we can't do both? We cannot do both, like,
At the moment, no,
why?
because it's not ready.
No, you can write the ordinance
Uh-huh.
and then put a section where see exhibit as the master plan. You can do that. It's just like with a fee schedule.
Right.
You can't do
So
that.
that's, I mean, basically it will serve the same purpose these two gentlemen are talking about.
Correct. But I mean, the ordinance is not gonna get written tomorrow. It takes time. We have to
Right.
do a public hearing.
And so what you're saying is, right now, we need to be a little bit more proactive and
Yes.
approve this, and then work on the,
And when it passes, then we do what Mr. Duran said. And
By the
that's
time
what-
the
what we
ordinance
wanted
is
to do
written,
all
your
along.
master plan's gonna be ready.
But what I wanna do is that I wanna beat the developers to the punch and already make them understand that this is what we're asking for. Those are all my agenda items. They all have to do with parks. You don't want to wait another month or two before everything's amended. Why? Because by the time it does, then how many plats are already gonna be presented?
yeah, and I think that's what we're hearing now, that we can do both, but we're gonna have to just take step A first
Yes, we
before we
do,
get to.
of course, and we'll just say, hey, when it presented, once we present it, I think we can put language where we say, hey, that's what we're gonna ask, and we wanna put it into the ordinance the same day. We can ask for language when they present us that. And the conveyance, I wanna ask that the conveyance of the parks, I don't wanna, I'm asking for the conveyance to be when the development as a whole is completed, that they convey the park then, and not rather than sooner, because a development can take maybe 3 years, you see, and a park might be done in half of that. So when they convey it, by the time they do the whole subdivision, our 1 year, warranty is over, you still have a year left. So also on this item agenda, we're addressing the lights, the naming of the park, there's another one specifically for that. What is it? And the conveyance. The conveyance is when you're done with your whole development, then and only then will you convey the park. So that 1 year of yeah, the warranty starts at the end of the conveyance. Any questions?
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 18, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amendment, policy or policy revision to provide for fencing, visual blocking, and other security measures on, near, and around drainage ponds and water conveyance channels.
Pictures?
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve for discussion?
Second. Oh, you put the pictures on there? Yeah. Did you guys do the pictures?
The-
Yeah, okay. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because we've had parks that were given to us and pondings, and they're chain link fence. We've had incidents where the children from, what's the school? My daughter's school. Yes, AC Healing. I'm emotional, guys, because this is something that, safety issues. There was a concern a year ago, Ms. Rodarte was aware, children were going into the ponding area because there were chain link fences, so we had to revamp it, remember? You were here for that, Mr. Perez? So, that's what we want to do, is that when they convey these, because right now, there's another subdivision in District 3 that's coming up, and they don't even have fencing whatsoever. It's just a hole, and it's just wide open. And that's the thing that we want to do, is that we want them to build a rock wall around it and stuff, and, so that we could eliminate, children even trying to get up on it. Make it easier.
Mr. Perez?
And that's one of the things that did take place, for example, a few years ago when we had a development, and it was happened to be in my neighborhood, but it still was a safety issue. That they wanted to keep, the developer had promised a rock wall around the flood, or the flood, whatever, the ponding area, yes, thank you. And that took, we really duked it out because they didn't want to provide it. And so we do have it now, but I think that should be the standard for all the ponding areas, because it is, even though I see them and I think it's more fun to play in the ponding areas.
Not
you know,
mosquito time.
but not during mosquito time, yes, but it's because of the hills and stuff. But it's a danger.
Ms. Villalobos?
So we weren't requiring, they were doing ponding, but we weren't requiring that they put it. So if there's an accident, are they responsible?
Well, what we're trying to do is that when we do ponding separate, that they're gonna require to do.
No, I'm saying the areas that now are developed, are they responsible if there's an accident? If there's, I'm sure we have ponding areas out there that are exposed.
Yes, we have
And-
several.
And who's liable? The city?
city.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not only do we, not
District two
not
has
only
a bunch.
do we have to ask the developer,
We're gonna
for-
make them.
right, but I think we have to ourselves go out there and do the same thing to the ponding areas that are exposed.
Yes, and that's something that that I was gonna address, but one of the things is that, what I'm trying to do with these items right now is that we wanna put them now so that the development that's gonna be coming into the city already has to do it. We don't have to do anything about it. Because right now, there's a lot of ponding areas that are chain link fences that you can tell where they're ripped from the bottom, or they're slouched down, or whatever it may be, and they're in residential areas like District 2, that are very hazardous. And if they were made out of, rock wall, we wouldn't have these issues. And it's gonna cost the city of Socorro to go back and fix all of these things that should have been taken care of, but didn't. And what we're trying to do is that we're trying to fix the problem, future problems, right now with these agenda items. So this is only gonna tackle future,
Okay.
okay, for the developers.
For right now, but we need to
For right
bring
now,
some.
yes,
an
and
item.
then, yes.
And then take me, once you have, after tonight, you take this and you have, directive already to, change the ordinance, how long does it take for you guys to prepare it?
Right now, I do know that our planning and zoning director is already working on the subdivision ordinance. So it's just implementing and getting with Mr. Birkelback. We did have a meeting this past week. There's so many things that need to be addressed and changed in that ordinance, so we're trying to clean it up. So, as soon as we can, I'm thinking about 2-3 weeks max.
Okay.
It's a big order.
Very extensive.
And
Is that, I'm sorry, is that the same ordinance where, does it have to do with that item that they brought to us over and over where they wanted to put like the gazebo right by the wall? Is that
That's,
separate?
no, that's another item that the setbacks,
Mhm.
the shaded structure, that is something else that we're working on also.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Duran?
With regards to the open ponding areas, I had brought something before council to put up warning signs and to put up markers just to show how deep the water was, and it was shot down. And I'd like to see something like that done. It wasn't shot down, was it? No, we did. No, we did. Did we? Where are we on that?
Planning and zoning is working on it. I mean, we've been without a planning and zoning director. So right now that we have one, I mean, that's his main focus right now is the ordinances. That's like the number one assignment is that he cleans up. However, I can put the ponding signs, and we've discussed as a staff, but if I put a warning sign and I don't put a fence around it, we're more liable.
We're still liable then.
Exactly.
But
So we
not-
need to actually fence it up and make sure that people, because at that point they're trespassing.
With regards to the parks that we still have that are ponding parks, we're gonna fence them, and are we gonna open them when there's no rain, or are we just gonna eliminate them?
That's something that we're trying to address with the master plan, and I think some of them are going to be, we're going to recommend closing,
Okay.
just because they cause more of a hazard than anything else.
Okay.
There's a couple of them.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 19, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amendment policy or policy revision to provide for adequate drainage and control of storm water on, from, and around city roads, particularly where the road comes to an end and future extension of the road is contemplated.
Motion to approve for discussions.
Mr.
Second.
Rodriguez?
There's a video.
Ready to start?
Oh, Laura, because I must have said something wrong.
Go ahead.
I was emotional that day.
So no sound?
No. Well, sort of, I think, no, we're good, yeah.
Here, look at all this right here. Look at all that. This is the water from this subdivision, right? Look, all the way over there. And it comes down here. Look, you see? That's Emerald. What's the street? Take it up a little bit. Go down. Emerald Terrace, right there. Okay? And then all this water from this subdivision goes down here. Look, and it leads to this. Where does this go to? The Arroyo in Sparks. All right? Look at all that water. Don't tell me it's not going, because it's right there. This is one of many from here.
I'm sorry, isn't it supposed to do that?
What?
Eliminate, get away, go away from the neighborhood and go into.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say, is that, we're getting all the runoff water, okay? I hated the fact that,
Oh, that wasn't
people up
Socorro.
north say that, oh, we don't do that. Yes, that's what I do. Every time
That
it
was
rains.
Horizon. That was
Yeah.
Horizon. Okay,
So they're building subdivisions up there, and what are they doing? They're just putting a little barrier, and that's it. But what happens is that when they're building subdivisions, and they're not even completed, just say phase 1, phase 2, there's like we heard right now, there's another phase 2 to phase 1. They just put these little barriers, and what happens is that when it rains, the water gets out of that subdivision, even on that first phase. What we're wanting to do is stop that and say, no. If you stop phase 1, all of phase 1 has to be retained in their own ponding. You're not gonna let it go out the way it is, because you're affecting not only that community, maybe a municipality, maybe your neighbors, okay? And that's what we want to eliminate, is that, you know what? You have engineers to engineer your plots and your development. Well, you know what? Maintain them. If you're gonna break down your development in phases, well, all your phase one and your phase two and your phase three and so forth have to maintain their water so that we won't have that type of runoff.
So are you proposing that we face?
No.
No?
What I'm saying is, we're gonna force the developer that if he brings us a plat and he's gonna make it in phases, well, by golly, no water is gonna leave that phase. It's gonna be,
So you're talking,
Reclaim.
okay, but you're not saying, you know, we go up there to Horizon,
No,
to
no,
their
no, no.
board meeting and tell
Future.
them?
no.
Well, but we,
What I'm saying is
but that's
this-
another idea
that's
that
a-
we need to
yes,
do.
but no.
Okay.
One of the things is that, remember, we have, how mu, Jim, our ETJ extends what, 2 miles or 5?
We're 30,002.
2? Okay, 2 miles. Anything 2 miles away from us, they have to obey by ordinance. So that's what I'm trying to do, is that what we're trying to do is that alleviate more runoff, potential runoff.
One exception, unless that's in the ETJ area.
Unless it's in the ETJ, yes. So we can do our own, but one of the things is, of course, you know, we wanna put it in an ordinance to say that if you're going to phase out your subdivision, do it in parts. Well, your part that you built first has to retain their water, and so forth and so forth. So that what's happening on that is that there is, on the other side, there's a drainage, but who cares, because the other part isn't being built, so the rest of that is going into where I showed you. And that was just barely starting to rain. When it rained last time, you know, our staff knows that when it starts to rain, I know that it's going to rain because my dog starts doing this to my door. What I do, I get ready and I go out the door, and then I call and I say, hey, do we have people out here? That's exactly what I do, because you know what? In our district, there's a lot of things happening. So I have to be out there looking. You were there, so you know what we're talking about. It might rain up there and not here, and there's still an issue for us. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. So that's what this is, this agenda item, to say developers that are going to partially do their development has to.
Have you, so obviously, you've probably gone up to the developers and asked, is this something that they, council request from you prior to developing the?
Well, we don't have anything in writing, so they don't have to abide by
No,
it.
but I'm talking about other, cities around us.
We can't
Well,
control them.
I've had a meeting with other cities, but some of the cities are like, well, we already are doing our efforts, and clearly, no.
I'm just saying, are we gonna run it, I mean, this is an excellent idea, obviously, we need it, there's no question about it. But are we going to drive developers away because of
You know, it's a good question, but I'm going to say this. We're amending, we're changing our ordinances. There's different, Jim, she's asking a question about the development, because we're amending our ordinances, right? She's
Yes,
asking a
my
question.
understanding- Go ahead.
So what I'm gonna ask her, I'm gonna answer her question, but it's in the same content, okay? When developers change, developers say, oh, I'm not building in your city, but they all come back. Why? Because we have land.
Well, they already own the land, so they
Mhm.
have to develop something.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just, I mean, okay.
And it's not what the developer wants, it's what we need.
I'm just wondering how other cities have gotten, their ponding areas fenced without having to, point it out to them. They
Because-
know automatically that that's what they have to do.
Because
What,
they have the
because it's
ordinances.
part of their
Ordinances.
ordinances.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
didn't have to
Did
develop
you
it.
research
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes, I did, and
Okay,
that's
that's
what.
what I'm asking.
Yes, I did do all of this. I've been doing this for like a year and a half, 2 years. The only reason, I'm gonna be truthful, the only reason why I didn't bring this up, because we had election after election after election. There was no time for us to do these changes, because we were going through changes. We were going through different council members. So I could not bring something and say, well, this is what's happening. So now that we are going to be here for the next 3 years, all of us together, it is time, yes, I know, Mr. Pettis. I got you. But, one of the things is that.
Like that. I'm
We-
picking up from what
We need, you know, because continuity is good, and it's something that is gonna drive our agenda for the next 3 years. And this is just the start from one of the changes. Like, believe me, in this ordinance, there's so many things that need to be changed that our staff is working full-time on it. And still, there's not gonna be able to change all of it. So this is one thing that I'm bringing up, because this is something that I've been saying that I wanna change. I'm bringing it to you. I'm gonna bring other changes as well. But this is the start. So I just want you guys to know that this is what I've been working on for the past year and a half too. And, but yes, I've talked to the county, I've talked to the city, I've talked to El Paso, I've talked to Horizon, I've talked to, even the city of Sanelli, even though they have already, 3 years, or 3 years. But, they're still doing some stuff that, we're so far behind that we need to come and do these changes.
Thank you, sir.
And that was just for comic relief.
Second?
And we also have a speaker on this side. Miriam Cruz.
I signed up for all of them, but I might wait to talk on most of them. I called Renee earlier in the week when I saw the agenda posted, because I wanted to thank him for having put these things on the agenda. It's something that I've talked to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I wrote a letter. I spoke to some of you about it. And I think these are all great, and I think that it's important for us to catch up to other cities. But I think that's the bare minimum that we should be doing. I think we can strive to be even better than them. And I know that's hard when we're trying to catch up, but trying to think of new ways other than, separating our ponding parks, and to name one, just because it's something that pops into my head. I only have 3 minutes, right?
90 seconds. A minute and a half.
I have 90 seconds? One thing that pops into my head is, this ponding area, we had a scare, or we still have a scare for mosquitoes. I don't remember what went out. Something over there, right, in Rio Bosque. And these ponding areas, I think, create this issue, because there's this gathered water for weeks that stays or stagnant and creates not only a safety issue for people going in there, but for the entire, surrounding area. And so one thing that pops into my head is having a usable ponding area, or a park that does incorporate the water into sort of like, the Bulldog Park that has that nice little pond. That's just an idea, right? But trying to think outside the box, I think, is important. So, yeah, we should, maybe
Ms. Cruz,
strive
your time is
for,
up.
thank you, strive for a little bit more. Thanks.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 20, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amendment, policy or policy revision to limit the circumstances in which a subdivision can provide for drainage ponds or other structures to be located on each or most of the lots in a subdivision, and instead require one or several collective retention ponds to receive the runoff from the entirety of the subdivision. Mr. Rodriguez?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Just to reiterate what I was saying is that, yeah, no, it's the gum. Just to say the same thing is that we need a better quality of life for our constituents. This is something that, a ponding should be different. I sent you, there was photos of parks that, why can they have all these amenities and we don't? I think it is time to just separate them. I think that it was a bad customs for us to do it in the beginning. I think we're better than that now. I think we should move forward, give the quality of life that our constituents' children deserve a better park. You know, there's times where I like to play in a park where the grass is wet for football. I used to do that. But not, you know, in 3-4 feet of water. And then we have the issue of the mosquitoes as well. I mean, those are the issues that, you know, even though we have some parks that have this type of park/ponding, there's still mosquitoes even when your kids are playing out on the swing sets that are at the edge, atop of the water, but still there's mosquitoes. I mean, I think that we just need to separate them, locate them in a different area. That's not too much to ask of the developers. We shouldn't even consider about what the developer's gonna do. We could consider the health and safety issue. And that's the bottom line. The health and safety issue of our future children and our future residents of the city of Socorro.
Mr. Perez?
I think that, and I agree. As we saw the videos, it seems like you had more expensive homes than we're usually accustomed to having built here. And I think that is part of the problem, is that developers and we as a community, I include myself, we as a community have to let it happen, where we are okay with the homes that they've been building. And we've started with the moratorium on the R3s and getting rid of the R3s and those kinds of things. But a developer, he and I had some words about that. In fact, I guess he said, well, everybody needs to have a starter home, and I agree. But the thing is that we have to have varied homes, varied housing. And those developers, I'm sure, when they build their homes, obviously they have a customer in mind. And when they have a park in their marketing, because all this is done by market studies, they are because of the park, they want to attract a certain client or a certain customer. And I think that I think that is not to be overly dramatic with the movie references, but if they build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And so if we build for a more varied type of housing, because we support us for everyone, but a more varied type of housing, I think that we'll have the improvements that we want to see, the quality of life that we want to see.
Ms. Villalobos?
Mr. Rene was first. Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh, thank you. But ladies first.
Okay, thank you. You're right. When I came here 15 years ago, I had a choice of 3 homes. That's it, 3 homes. 2 of them were on Rancho Viejo, where I live, and another one on Socorro Road. Big, beautiful home. And everything else was not up to the standards 15 years ago. Horizon was even worse. There was a lot of do-it-yourself homes, cardboard homes, and look at how beautiful it is, because they started first with saying no more. And I think today that's what we're doing here today.
Exactly.
We're showing no more, and let's continue the path, because eventually we're going to be bigger and better. We really are, but it has to start here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
And I want to thank Mr. Perez and Ms. Villalobos, because when I brought the agenda item to do away with the R3s, that's all we got. That's all we will receive. You know, we want a better quality of life. We also want, you know, middle class in our city. You know, we want better amenities. You know, how do we attract them with better homes, better parks? This is a combination of everything we've done. I want to thank you for, you know, eliminating that with me, because that's something that we wanted to move the city forward. Mm-hmm. With these parks, it'll be a great addition to, you know, the R2s and the R1s that will be built in the future. And it'll attract more people to come to live in the city of Socorro.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to settle.
And we have one speaker, Miriam Cruz.
Really quickly, I wanted to say 2 things. You guys really caught me off guard. That was fast. I don't know what I was gonna say about parks and stuff. I wanted to say something about something else I was saying beforehand. But one thing that came to mind, and a suggestion, to look at another ordinance when we want variety of homes to be available in a certain area. Maybe an ordinance that does not allow for more than a certain number of R2s to be within a certain radius, or for a variety to be, in place. I think other than the park master plan, I think we have a city master plan, right, that we try to live up to. And I think if we can incorporate that, and the reason I mention it, and the reason I think it's a good idea is because not only so that there's a variety, but also because of traffic, right? So the more homes there are within a certain area, the more cars, the more people. And so we would, just an idea, a suggestion to look into that possibly too. And I can't remember what else I wanted to say. Oh, I think about, as far as what I was saying about, keeping the park and the ponding area together, maybe that can be applied to the ones that are already pond parks. Somehow trying to get that water out of there.
Ms. Cruz, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 21, discussion and action to direct staff to prepare ordinance amendment to require that parks and subdivisions be separated from and not used also as ponding areas.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Basically the same thing. So,
Yeah.
Do you have speakers?
Yes. Miriam Cruz, Rene Rodriguez,
aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 22, discussion and action to direct city manager to enroll members of city council in the city health insurance and other benefits on the same terms and conditions as city employees.
Make a motion to approve.
Second for discussion?
Mr. Rodriguez?
I brought this item, not this item, but I was gonna do a charter amendment, just to put it in the charter, for a November ballot. It didn't happen because we didn't meet quorum, so I'm bringing it to council, since since council, didn't take it to the people. But I just wanted to put it in the charter at the time so that the people could have a saying in it. That's why I wanted to be transparent. But since we didn't, were able to, I'd rather take it to the council because we don't need, since it's not in the charter, we could apply it and see if anybody in council wishes to have health insurance as well, like the employees. Because of the deadline that is gonna happen on the 15th, I guess that's why I brought it up, just in case you guys wanted to see any of your options.
Mr. Perez?
So then it would just be an option for city council members if they opted to take it on.
To take it, yes. I mean, I have health insurance. I'm pretty sure you do and Mr. Nevares, but the rest of council members, or, even if it's a better plan, you guys might want to take a look at it and see, but the option is there. I mean, just to have an option, if you guys want to take it.
Ms. Villalobos?
And so you're saying if there's a premium attached to it monthly?
Well, as it is, no, because we would be at the same as the employees.
And if we were to vote on it, Mr. Martinez, it's something that we could do. We're not doing anything illegal.
Yes, and,
What's the yes part and what is the no
yes,
part?
it's something you can do, no, it's not illegal.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to take it. We could vote for it, and maybe I won't take it, maybe I will. Maybe I'll take the division, maybe I'll take the whole thing, maybe not. Mr. Nevares, I know Ryder is very very nice with the health insurance.
I know that.
it is.
I-
You know, so I mean, those are things, just because we vote on it doesn't mean that we're forced to take it. It's an option, another option.
Okay. And for the record, right, a week before I got married, my husband worked for Ryder, and it was like,
Right, that's
And
what
then he-
I'm trying to get on
and
this
then he
plan.
gets laid off, and I didn't get the insurance, or the pay.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Do you have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive.
My request would be to postpone or delete item 33. We have some information for you, but we don't have the final part of it. And David Mirazo is the laboring on that, so let us, one, finish it, two, I'll have him out here to us.
Okay, so then I guess it is,
Is that the only thing we have for executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
so now go ahead and make a motion to delete items 30 through 33.
Second.
Yes, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what he's doing.
30 to 33.
No.
That's a 33.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn, Madam
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Mayor. Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
And we adjourn at 7:48.
Hey, a public announcement.